And behind that parking lot, you're going to see red and green buoys stored in the field over there. These are the buoys the Coast Guard uses to mark that deep water channel. Now, after we pass the Coast Guard station on the right, the first buoy you're going to see in the river here is a green buoy right behind that little fishing boat. And directly across from that little fishing boat on the other side, in between the purple and red roofed house over there, you can see the red buoy. So that marks the deep water channel out here at Mayport. Like I said, when the captain brings their boat in from the ocean, they remember the 3 R's, red, right, returning, so they don't get confused. Now next we're going to pass a nursery for baby sea animals. Now some of these baby sea animals are born in the ocean and some are born right over there in the river. And they come up to this nursery to grow up because it's shallow water, it's more protected, they can find plenty of food drifting in the water. Some of the food they eat is the real tiny microscopic plants and animals I hope you saw in room 8 this morning we call plankton. Hopefully you saw some plant plankton. They were shaped like circles, triangles, rectangles. And the animal plankton, the one you probably saw a lot of today, was copepods, so it looked like roach with a handlebar mustache. And I'm sure you saw a lot of little baby barnacles today as well. But if you look over to the right, this is the beginning of the nursery. Now the tide's pretty low, so we can see lots of oyster beds out there. If the tide was high today, you couldn't see those oyster beds. They would be completely covered with water. Now the real name for that nursery you see out there to your right is the marshlands, or the saltwater marshes. Or we could get a little fancier and call it by the scientific name, estuary. Estuary is the word that scientists use to refer to that nursery you see out there to your right. Now we go down the beach collecting. We do not take our shoes and socks off. We are still in school. But the most important reason is we don't want anyone stepping on glass or something, getting hurt while you're with us. And we try not to get wet from salt water. If you've ever had your clothes wet from salt water before, when they dry, they get sticky, itchy, and hard. So before you can get home and change your shoes and socks today, your shoes and socks rubbing against your heel could rub a blister on your foot, and they're no fun. So the best way to keep that from happening out here today is, when we get close to the water's edge, always face the ocean. Don't turn your back on that ocean. Face the ocean, that way you'll see the waves coming in, and hopefully you will be fast enough to jump out of the way to keep from getting wet out here today. Now we go collecting, I say give everything you find a sniff test. Now what I mean by that is if it stinks, you don't want it, I don't want it. Your teacher doesn't want it, and I'm sure your parents don't want it as well. Leave it alone. If something's dead, if it doesn't smell now, it will sooner or later, so leave dead things alone. Especially crabs. Crabs are scavengers, they eat dead things, so they have lots of bacteria on them. Leave dead things alone. And we may see some jellyfish today too. Again, if they're dead, they're on the beach, just leave them alone. Don't even touch them with your shoes, because you've got to get back on the bus. Nobody's going to want you riding on the bus if your feet smells like dead fish or something. So just leave dead things alone. Now if you find something that's alive out here today, I want you to show it to me. If it's something we could use at the Marine Science Center, we might take it back. But most of the time we put the live animals back in the ocean, or we find a safe place for them out here at the beach. Now we're going to be looking for 3 things out here today. One is litter. Now we're not picking up any litter, because if we came out to pick up litter, we should all be wearing gloves. And I can't pass out gloves to everybody. So I want you to be aware of the kinds of litter you see on our beach out here today. But remember, we're not picking up any litter out here. Number 2, we're going to be looking for mollusks. Now mollusks are soft-bodied animals that usually live inside of shells. So you're going to be looking for the shells of mollusks. The third thing you're going to be looking for are fossils. Now there are different kinds of fossils we find out here. One is called an impression. Now by impression I mean the same thing as when you walk through the sand, you leave footprints, tracks behind. These are impressions of what your feet look like. So inside the rocks you find out here today, sometimes it looks like somebody stuck something in the rock, pulled it out real fast, and left the imprint of the plant or animal inside the rock. You might even find a rock out here today that has a perfect hole through it. Well, that means that rock formed around something to leave the hole in it, so even the hole is considered a fossil. And impression, billions and billions of years old. Now some of the rocks out here today, you will actually see fossilized shells, bones, and if you're real lucky, maybe even a shark's tooth. So you want to pick up the rocks you find out here today, check them out. You might be real surprised what you find in them. Now if you pick up a rock out here today and after you look at it, you don't see anything neat in it and you don't want to keep it, lay it down. Don't throw anything while you're with us out here today, because anything you pick up on the beach is going to have sand on it. And if you remember how pretty our sand looked under the microscope, all the pretty minerals we saw in our sand, the rubies, the topaz, the garnet, and the